verses on the Bhagavatam. It's the second verse in the Bhagavatam, and then a few points related to that. Which car is it?
No, it's it.
Okay.
It's mine. I couldn't find parking, so I could block everything. You lot shouldn't go really. Listen to this class once.
That's it, actually, that's it. You're in the right. Next time, everyone should block everyone else. So, we'll just chant the invocation before we begin. And then what we'll do is we're going to sing the verse. And everyone knows the Sad Goswami Ashtakam, we've sang it before. Yeah? Krishna Kirtana Karana Paro. So we're going to sing that melody. So before we do the invocation, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 This is a very, very sweet verse. I mean, Bhagavatam is full of these verses, but this is one of my favorite verses to chant. So I'll sing a line, and then you sing a line. So what I'll do is I'll speak through it first, just so you know how to pronounce it. I'll say it, then you say it. Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Dharma projita kaivatotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Dharma projita kaivatotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam.
Vedyam vastavamatra
vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam. Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam.
Vedyam vastavamatra
vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Vapareirishvara.
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Vapareirishvara.
Satya Hridya Varudyate Trakritibi Shushrushubi Tatshana.
Satya Hridya Varudyate Trakritibi Shushrushubi Tatshana.
Dharma Projita Kaitavotra Paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Dharma projita kaivatotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Dharma Projita Kaitavotra Paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Dharma projita kaivatotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam.
Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam.
Srimad Bhagavate Such a nice verse, isn't it? So just do the quick invocation. Something actually I wanted to mention, whether it's in Arti, whether we're singing just before we give a class, reciting any of the verses, there's a really powerful bhajan, and in that bhajan it says, Golokera Prema Dana Harinam Sankirtana. That this transcendental vibration is not an ordinary, it's not just some song like you get on the radio. It's a transcendental vibration that whether you have the faith or don't have the faith, this transcendental vibration has the potency to completely purify your heart. So it's really important to remember this, because sometimes it becomes part of the furniture. You know, you just get used to it. But like remembering that this is such a powerful mantra. It's not from this world. It's from the same place we're from. The soul is from the spiritual world. So we should really meditate on that. Anytime we're chanting the Maha Mantra, chanting these verses, prayers, really, really powerful. Because just like with prasad, it's said that with prasad, the potency of prasad is decided by the cook, the offerer, and the honorer. So the person who cooks it, the person who offers it, and the person who eats it. So the consciousness, whatever you're thinking of, it affects the potency of the prasad. That's why when Srila Prabhupada came to the West, and he would cook, and without even speaking any words, so many people became devotees because they honored the prasadam that was cooked, offered by Srila Prabhupada. Because, you know, Prabhupada had very high consciousness. He was cooking for the pleasure of Krishna. So in the same way, Krishna reciprocates. Ye yatamam prapadyante. That however one approaches me, I reciprocate accordingly. So it's always really important not to take the mantra for granted. So we'll chant this invocation. This invocation we chant because this is not my knowledge. I wish it was my knowledge. It's not my knowledge. This is the knowledge that's coming down in the chain of disciplic succession. And Srila Prabhupada, by his grace, brought it to the Western world. So we do this prayer, we recite this prayer to invoke the blessings of the previous teachers so that it may penetrate deep within our hearts, it may make some impact in our lives, that we're able to go away and implement and let it transform our lives. So if you know it, please chant along. And if you don't, you can meditate on the transcendental vibration. Om Agyanantimirandasya
Shalakaya Chakshurummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swavadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttamadhyamam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagradatam Sadvetam Sadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagananta Shri Vishakhantam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Neelabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopiga Kantha Radha Kantha Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapalibhishya Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnaveyo Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottama Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayavadhiri Nashtaprayasho Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevatu Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhagavati Nashtaki. Okay, so thank you everyone for coming today. You could be many places on a Sunday, but Sundays here are pretty cool, so not many better places that you could be. So yeah, thank you. So we'll try and go through this second verse of the Bhagavatam today. Very, very powerful verse. Mainly because most people here are from a Hindu background. There's a few that aren't, but I'm sure it will be still quite relevant. Still also prominent in other religions, because what is true religion? What is the purest way we can approach religion? That's what this verse is all about. So the translation of this verse is, someone want to read this out?
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for beautiful fun, for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need for any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
So, how many of you have read some or bits of or the whole of Bhagavatam? Yeah. Who hasn't? Put your hand up. It's fine. It's cool. That's cool. That's fine. So, yeah, we'll try and make it so hopefully become inspired to read Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is really amazing. I mean, I'm still a beginner, but yeah, I can feel I want to know more about the Bhagavatam, want to learn more from my guides, from my teachers, my friends. So, the first verse of the Bhagavatam describes the absolute truth. That's the very first verse. It describes the absolute truth. So quite often in other religions, we speak about just God. But in the Vedic tradition, we have a much more kind of broader way that we approach it, which is the absolute truth. It's not just God. I mean, traditionally the function of God is He creates, He dishes out the punishment and reward and so on. But the Vedic concept has a much more broader term, which is the absolute truth. So the first verse describes the absolute truth. The second verse describes how the absolute truth is conceived. And depending on your consciousness, depending on your motivation, your intention, you can approach it in many different ways. So one of the ways that you can approach the absolute truth is for material gains. Who has approached the absolute truth for material gain? I have. 100%. I still do. Yeah, we all, maybe at some point or even now, are approaching the absolute truth for some material prosperity, which is fine. We're not here to judge anyone. You can approach the absolute truth for knowledge. We can approach the Lord for knowledge. That might be our motive. We just want to know more. We can approach the absolute truth for liberation. Who thought that that is why we should be approaching the Lord? For liberation. Okay? Yeah. I mean, that may well be a reason why we approach the Lord for liberation. So, what is the consciousness or the mood that the Srimad Bhagavatam urges us to approach the Lord? That is what we are going to discuss in this verse. That's what this verse is really all about. So this verse is a really important stage for us being able to understand the rest of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So yeah, that is the final one, which is pure love. You can approach out of pure love. Sorry, I somehow missed that. That's the most important. We want to approach the Lord for pure love, selfless service. So, dharma projita kaitava. Kaitava means cheating or deceptive. That which appears one way, but in reality is another. That's what kaitava means. Cheating. So, kaitava dharma means cheating religion. So this second, think about it, in this whole scripture, which is 18,000 verses, the second verse is basically saying, cheating religion is being kicked out here. And projita kaitava dharma. Give it up completely. That's what the Bhagavatam is saying. That this has got nothing to do with cheating religion. What does cheating religion refer to? So imagine you pay £1,000 for a phone. And you think like it's, worth it. I mean, that's about how much a new phone costs right now, right? About £1,000. Crazy. I remember you could get a phone for like £30 before. Now you get ripped off. But then later you find out that this phone was second hand, and you could have got that phone for like £500. You feel cheated, right? Whoever sold it to you would feel like, this guy's done me out. So you got less than the potential that you were able to get with that £1,000, isn't it? So what is fair and what is cheating? So kaitava dharma means we get less out of human life than what our potential was. That's what kaitava dharma is speaking about. Or what you could or should have got. So human life is the platform for launching us from the temporary world to the eternal world. That's what human life is meant for. That's what the Vedic scriptures describe. And that elevation happens for those who avoid the pitfall of material life. That's what we are supposed to do. We're supposed to avoid material life. Or even, not just material life, but religious materialism. So that is what is described as cheating religion. So, materialism means that we get attached to matter. We get attached to matter, we want to enjoy matter. Or enjoy material things. That's quite obvious. I think most people know that. But here, so in material enjoyment, we get trapped in the cycle of birth and death. Because we enjoy, we get entangled in the karmic reaction, therefore we have to come back, and therefore we just keep going round and round. But religious materialism means that one focuses on enjoying material things, but in a religious way. Does that ring a bell for anyone? What do you think that looks like? Religious materialism. What do you think that is? Anyone got an example of that yet?
I'd say it's relative. I think it's very difficult to be in a material body and not live some kind of material.
Yeah, absolutely.
The process of eating, even if you're in a hut in the forest, the process of eating food is material activity. You know? So it's a matter of degree, I think.
Yeah? Anyone got an example? Yeah?
I don't know, I'm right or wrong, but Krishna in Gita says that you do the prescribed duties, what is given to sacrifice to Vishnu, to Krishna. So in the material world, you should sacrifice the prescribed duty for Krishna, like not material.
It could be, depending on your motivation. Yeah?
Is it sort of demigod worship for something in return, like a bit of an outcome?
Yeah, it's like outcome driven. So there's no love involved. It's more transactional. That it's like I will offer this thing. Please help me to pass my exam, kind of thing. So that kind of religious materialism, or like I want to increase my material prosperity. Therefore, and this is not being judgmental. We're looking at the different levels of consciousness. Yeah, madam.
I've got an example, like you could want to buy a car and be like, I'm going to buy a car so I can go to the temple, that's very far away from you or something.
There could be both. There could be both. Like you could have a car and you could genuinely have a pure motive to drive your family and devotees around. And the truth is that not many people would know other than yourself. So yeah, you're right. Or you could be like, I'm buying this flash car because I want to drive the devotee, but really I just want to look really flash. So it could be both. So it's ultimately it's down to intention. So religious materialism means that one focuses on enjoying material things, but by religious means. So in the Vedic scriptures, you may have heard of the four Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Heard of that before? Everyone's heard of. So they are called the Purusha Arthas, for the purpose of life. Generally, that's what it's called. So one uses the principles of religion to attain material goals, basically. So you start off with Dharma, you do some type of religious activity. And by doing this religious activity, it's actually one of the types of karma that Krishna describes in the Gita. So it's karma, akarma, vikarma. Karma is like you scripturally do things in a particular way and you get good karma come back to you. So you do dharma, you get artha, you get some opulence that comes from that. From that opulence you enjoy and ultimately you get frustrated and then you aspire for moksha. So there is some emphasis on religious activity here, but this is considered a lower form of religion. It's not considered very pure, if you like. There's no sense of selflessness there. So it's actually described in the Srimad Bhagavatam that one who goes to the holy places just to bathe in the rivers, but doesn't bathe in the wisdom that comes from the great sages, is described to be just like an animal. Sounds a bit harsh, but but it's described to be just like an animal because it's not the purpose why we go to the holy places. Not for selfish reasons. We go to hear from the great sages, the holy saints. So the Bhagavatam is focusing on Kaitava Projita, giving up religious materialism. So in the second verse, completely kicks that out. So it's got, Bhagavatam has nothing to do with this. It's not accepted here. Other scriptures may, and we'll discuss a little bit later about Vyasadeva, the author of what kind of thoughts he goes through and why he compiles the Bhagavatam. So moksha is also considered to be a level of self-centeredness, interestingly. I also was very surprised when I heard this verse. So normally it means liberation, but on another level, there's a kind of self-centeredness there that I can't enjoy on this material level, so let me just attain liberation. Because you start off with dharma, then you get artha, then you enjoy, you get kama, and then through that frustration of not being able to enjoy the material world, one tries to renounce and attain liberation. But there's a level of selfishness there, because you're like, I give up to that, let me just merge with the divine and see if I can enjoy it that way. But the Bhagavatam is not really interested in that type of religion. It's really speaking about devotional service. So, Dharma projita kaitavo praparamo nirmat saranam satam. So, parama means, let me give up this lower form of religion and practice the highest religion, which is centered around love, around selfless service, devotional service. So that's what the second verse is really encouraging us to do, and that's what it's recommending. So nirmat saranam satam. Satam means those saintly persons who are focused on the eternal and not on the temporary. Not on the temporary things of this world. They're really focused on the eternal. And there are many transcendentalists that focus on Satam, the eternal. But here, there's a really special characteristic that's mentioned that's very specific, this verse, Nirmat Saranam. It's really interesting. Those who are non-envious. So, when we're talking about non-enviousness, we're talking about those that are not competing with others at their level of enjoyment. Like, that's a really important point. It's actually a good point for introspection. You know, how much am I really competing with others? How much am I trying to get one up on others? This envy, this is what the Bhagavatam is saying, that those who can really relish the Bhagavatam are those who are free from envy. So, at the material level, there's always matsara. If we're on the material platform, Srila Prabhupada used to say that materialism means envy. If you're on the material platform, then guaranteed envy is there, to some degree. It requires some level of introspection. If it's very subtle and not so obvious, we have to really keep excavating the heart. Someone has more, someone has less, envy naturally would arise. So materially, not only are we satisfied with having more than others, but when we see envy in the eyes of others for something we got, that we have, it kind of invokes a kind of special kind of joy to see someone envious when we're on the material platform. So the Bhagavatam is telling us to be very conscious of this. Nirmat Saranam means that one has to give up this competitive mentality. And actually at the highest level, ultimately we have to give up our envy for God Himself. Because Krishna, or God, is the only enjoyer. If we are trying to take that place, we're trying to enjoy the material world, means we're trying to take Krishna's place. So we have to ultimately give up that envy for Krishna, envy for God. And Krishna says to Arjuna, actually, in the 9th chapter of the Gita, that I'm speaking this knowledge to you because you are non-envious of me. So it's a very, very important characteristic to really imbibe this wisdom, to be non-envious of Krishna and of others. And then Krishna also says later right at the end of the Gita, this is one of the last verses, he says, don't speak this knowledge, and then he describes a few different characteristics. And then one of the characteristics that he mentions is envy. And he says that don't speak this knowledge to those who are envious, and then a few other characteristics he mentions. And then a really nice song actually. So on the altar you'll see, right at the bottom level, there are 6 photos. And then the one on the far right, there's 6 gentlemen that are standing there. Those 6 gentlemen are the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. And of course, in the Gaudiya line, followers of Srila Prabhupada, many people are aware of the 6 Goswamis in this line, but outside of the ISKCON or Gaudiya Vaishnavism, people are not so aware of them. But actually, all Vaishnavas have a big debt of gratitude to the Goswamis, because due to the Goswamis, you have these 6 main temples in Vrindavan. Vrindavan was excavated with many holy places. Lord Chaitanya instructed them to write many books on the science of bhakti. So we're very grateful to them. All Vaishnavas are grateful to them. But there's a song about them called the Sad Goswami Ashtakam. And in the Sad Goswami Ashtakam, there's a really nice line in the first verse. And it says, Dira Adira Jana Priya Priya Karo Nirmatsaro Pujito. That these 6 Goswamis, they are dear to both the gentle and the ruffians. So like gentle people and rough people, they all love the Goswamis. But why? Because they are Nirmatsaro. Nirmatsaro means they're free of envy. So actually, when one is free of envy, there's a natural attractiveness. You know when you meet a real sadhu, there's just something about them, even before they speak. Like, just something I like about this person is their demeanor, because they're free from these unwanted qualities, these anarthas like envy. So Krishna, the Bhagavatam, are really encouraging us to abandon envy, because without envy, you can really relish the Bhagavatam. So we may not be free of envy, we may have some envy, but to the extent that we can become free of envy, to that extent, we will be able to properly relish the Bhagavatam. So, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the next verse says, Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapa trayon mulanam. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is the vastava vastu. So, Vedyam means to know about something. Vedyam means to be in the know about something. Vastava vastu means the real thing that exists, the real truth. So, to be in the know about the real thing. This is what the Bhagavatam is saying. So, Srimad Bhagavatam raises our consciousness from the body to the soul, from the soul to Bhagavan and his abode. So, our meditation ultimately shapes our destiny. For example, if I think about food, then naturally I'll get hungry over some time. Like, you can think about like this, something that you really like, and saliva will come in your mouth. Like that, meditation will create an effect. So if I think about food, I'll get hungry, and then I'll go to the supermarket, and it has a knock-on effect. So, in the same way, whatever we think of in this life, that we ultimately will attain. Krishna says the same thing in the 8th chapter of the Gita, that whatever consciousness one has, that they will attain without fail. And then Shivadam, auspicious. Shivadam means to give us auspiciousness. So this vastava vastu, the real thing, which is the real thing that we should know about, it gives an auspicious result. It gives us auspiciousness. And what is that auspiciousness? Tapa trayo. Tapa trayo means the threefold miseries. Who knows what the threefold miseries are? What are the threefold miseries? Yeah, right.
Adi Devik, Adi Atmic, and Adi Bodhic. So misery is caused by oneself, misery is caused by other people, and misery is caused by like natural calamities like earthquakes and tsunamis.
Yeah, great. So that's perfect. So there's 3 types of miseries that we get in this world. Miseries that are caused by our own mind and body. We sometimes become our own worst enemy. Or even we just may have unfortunately developed something that causes us distress. Miseries caused by just natural calamities, things just out of our control. And then misery caused by other living entities. Might be a person, might be mosquitoes when you go on holiday. It could be anything. So these threefold miseries are always there in life. At some point they're like fluctuating, causing distress to all living entities. So it says here that tapa trayon anmulanam. Anmulanam means uprooted. So it's saying here, if we come to know about this real thing, this Bhagavatam, what the Bhagavatam is giving, it uproots these threefold miseries from our life. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, Krishna says, this really nice verse, it says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetitatvata tyaktva deham punarjanma neti mam eti sarjana. That the one who understands the nature of my appearance and activities, the transcendental activities, so one who understands like how Krishna appears, what pastimes Krishna engages in when he comes, one who really understands this, doesn't, upon leaving this body, take birth in this material world again, but attains my eternal abode. So just by, and that's what the Bhagavatam is. The Bhagavatam is full of Krishna's pastimes with his devotees. By really absorbing ourselves and being able to understand this, one will never take birth in this material world again. So really, really nice verses that correlate to what we're reading in the Bhagavatam. So let's just do a quick recap. The Srimad Bhagavatam recommends to us to give up all lower levels of religion. And this higher level of religion, which is recommending, is practiced by those who are focused on the eternal and are free from envy. So that's the first part of it. So what does it involve? It involves knowing the real thing. What is the real thing? Vedyam vastava vastu. The real substance, which is Krishna's pastimes. And what is the result of that? What is the result when we take shelter of that real thing? Tapa trayam mulanam. That we will eradicate, uproot these threefold miseries. And what further characteristics are there of the Srimad Bhagavatam? Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Va Pare Ishvara. Srimad Bhagavatam is commonly known as the Bhagavad Puran. That's what most people know the Bhagavad Puran as. But Srila Prabhupada and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu referred to the Bhagavad Puran as Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad means that which is related to Bhagavan. And Srimad means that which is filled with Shri. Shri can mean filled with wealth, filled with opulence, with auspiciousness and glory. So that which is related to Bhagavan and is filled with opulence, wealth, auspiciousness and glory. Mahamuni Krite, and it was compiled by the great sage Vyasa. So Vyasadeva, he is the compiler of all the Vedic scriptures. And in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, I think the 5th was the 6th chapter of the 1st canto. So the Bhagavatam is very vast. It's 18,000 verses. If you read 11 pages a day, it would take you 4 years to finish. It's a very long scripture. We have a study group. We've been running this study group on Bhagavatam for 5 years. And we're on the 5th canto. And there's 12 cantos. So it's like really large body of work. So Vyasadeva, he's a compiler of all the Vedas. And then out of his causeless mercy, he condensed and then, he delineated all the different Vedas to different sages. But then he was just like really frustrated. He was like despondent. He was like something was missing. So then his spiritual master, Narad Muni, comes. And he explains to him why he's despondent. And he explains that it's because you've not sufficiently glorified the pastimes of the Lord. Because the Vedas basically what the Vedas do is they get anyone from anywhere and they get them on the ladder somewhere, somehow. It's not all speaking about the highest truth. Most of it is talking about the 3 modes of material nature, Rajagun, Sattvagun, and Tamagun, and how to elevate someone up. So it's kind of like, even if someone is really fallen, it will give something for them, like how can they meet in a Vedic way that will slowly elevate them? And then like that, it will elevate people up slowly. And so he was despondent. So Narad Muni explains to Vyasadeva that this is why you haven't sufficiently glorified the Lord. There's a really interesting verse in the 5th chapter, and I'll read a bit of this out. because it relates to Crawley. You won't believe this, it actually relates to Crawley. Unbelievable. And this is Srila Prabhupada's glory, and all the other sages who are singing the Bhagavatam in Crawley. So this verse, it says, those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Do you know what the meaning of Crawley is? The meaning of Crawley is a crow infested dwelling. That's the meaning of Crawley. So when I read this, I was like, wow! Like, it's no longer Crawley anymore because Bhagavatam is being recited here now. So all glories to Srila Prabhupada and his followers, and Vrindavati Prabhu for beginning the churning of the Bhagavatam ocean here in Crawley. Yeah, it's amazing that it's no longer a place of pilgrimage for crows. It's a place where Bhagavatam is recited. So, like it's saying here, those words that do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. And then, Kim va pare Ishvara. What need is there for any other scripture? That's what that third verse ends with. And then the final verse, Sadhya hridya varudyate trakritivi shushru shubi tatshana. Previously, it was described that tapa trayon mulanam. But here, so tapa trayon mulanam, what was that? The three miseries are uprooted completely. But here it describes how exactly that is uprooted, how exactly that happens. By hearing the Shri, and this is the translation or the kind of, what do you call it? Paraphrasing what this verse means. By hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme Lord at once manifests in the heart without delay. That's what the end of this verse is saying. This is the special potency of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It invokes the presence of the Lord within our heart. Really powerful. And this is a matter of faith. It's like we're going to be like, yeah, whatever. But if we really, like Srila Prabhupada would often say, if you serve the deity or you worship, like bow down to the deity, and all you see is metal, it will just remain metal or marble or whatever. But if you see that this is the Supreme Lord, then the Lord reciprocates accordingly. Same way with the Bhagavatam. If you approach the Bhagavatam in that way with so much faith. There's actually a verse at the end of the 17th chapter of the Gita where it speaks about the importance of faith when you do any type of spiritual activity. That if an activity is done without faith, it is asat, means it has no kind of real benefit in this life or in the next. So you have to really develop this faith. So when we understand this, Kim va pare Ishvara, why doesn't one need anything else? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is Srila Prabhupada's guru, he said, if all books in the world were destroyed, but Srimad Bhagavatam remained, then nothing would be lost. I'm not saying burn any books, by the way. Someone could cut that out and make this like, look what Hare Krishna followers are teaching. No, please don't do that. He's just giving an example of emphasizing why Srimad Bhagavatam is so important. So this isn't an exclusivist glorification, it's contextual. So there is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is important, but Bhagavad Gita brings us to the point of Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita ends with surrender. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with surrender. And then we have Chaitanya Charitamrita, which describes the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that supplements the Bhagavatam, but the Bhagavatam is very, very important for us. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is really emphasizing that because Srimad Bhagavatam gives the message for pure love of God. And something important to remember is that our goal isn't to become pandits. Our goal is not to, remember 1,000 verses. That's not the goal of studying Srimad Bhagavatam. The goal of Srimad Bhagavatam is simply to become lovers of Krishna, is to have Krishna's presence within our heart. That's the goal of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we don't have to become pundits or learned and know all the verses. We just have to imbibe the essence of what Srimad Bhagavatam teaches. So something that I really wanted to cover, just to wrap up now, is there are many rules and regulations and things like that that people sometimes become very overwhelmed with. I have to do this, I have to do that. Don't become overwhelmed. Ultimately, we want to be a part of something that can help us individually and collectively grow and walk on the path of spiritual life. So there are 5 activities that Srila Rupa Goswami recommends to all of us, that if you just simply engage in these 5 activities, your spiritual life will be taken care of. Those 5 activities are sadhu sangha. You have to regulate, and sadhu sangha doesn't mean like, just meet up and have a game of football. You can do that, but it's not included in sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha means you come together and we read, we discuss, like you have a group, and you discuss about the Bhagavatam, the Gita. You have a regular group like this. The most important quality in spiritual life, for your success in spiritual life, is steadfastness. The most important quality. Because it's like, I read 100 pages of Srimad Bhagavatam today, but for the next 364 days didn't do anything. That's not very steadfast. Better to read a page a day, or half a page, or 2 lines. Be steadfast in anything that you do. All of these things that we mentioned, the quality to remember is to remain steadfast. Just do it consistently. Every single day, every 2 days, whatever you set for yourself, just be steadfast. So sadhu sangha is one. Nam kirtan. Try to chant consistently. That's the second item that's mentioned. I won't go into that too much because you're all really aware of that. Bhagavad Shravan. What we just did, we heard from the Srimad Bhagavatam. You hear Srimad Bhagavatam, regularly. It's very, very powerful. And you discuss. If you don't understand, I definitely don't understand even a fraction of what is to be taught in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But it's powerful. If we just try to repeat what we have learned, try to realize, try to understand, convey that message to others. If you convey that message and people ask a question, it's okay to say I don't know, because what did we say at the beginning? It's not my knowledge. This is the knowledge coming down from Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas. Okay to say I don't know. So we want to do Bhagavad Shravan regularly in the association of devotees. And then Mathuravas, which means residing in the holy places. In Navavraja Mahima, one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, Shivram Swami, he very nicely describes that there are 5 types of holy places. The first is Goloka Dham, or the spiritual world. Actually, the spiritual world. Then there is Bhauma Vrindavan, which is Vrindavan on this earthly realm. And there's 2. There's one where Krishna manifested. So it's manifest. Krishna comes with all his entourage, his paraphernalia, everything is there. That's the second type. When Krishna leaves, Vrindavan is still there, but that Vrindavan is unmanifest to the ordinary material eyes. You can only see it when the Dharma is revealed to you through the process of devotional service. That's the third type of holy place. The fourth type of holy place is the holy place that travels in the heart of the pure devotee. So when Srila Prabhupada travelled all around the world, he carried Vrindavan in his heart. That's the fourth type. And then the fifth type is when the pure devotee travels around the world and he establishes different temples or different farm communities. That's the fifth type of holy place. So there's 5 types of holy place that we can reside in. I'm not saying come to BYC and go to sleep, but maybe one day we'll have some overnight accommodation. But we can take shelter of these 5 types of holy place. And I would highly recommend go on retreats. Go to Sridham Mayapur, go to Sri Vrindavan Dham, go to Jagannath Puri. Very, very powerful places to go on pilgrimage. And it's said that one doesn't go on pilgrimage as a tourist. One goes on pilgrimage to hear from the sadhus. So you go with, a group of people that you feel I can learn from them. And sadhus are not just, distant people. Sadhus are even amongst the community. And other communities. So you go with them, learn from them. So Mathuravas. And Shri Murtira Shraddhaya Sevanam. So we come every Sunday to offer Gaurarti. And actually good time to mention this. Please come early, because the purpose of coming here, yes, part of it is to honor the prasadam of the Gai Gauranga, but also a big part of it is to offer Arti and be present in the Arti. So you come early, everyone can be a part of the Arti. It's quite ecstatic today, right? Such a nice Gaur Arti. And we can do that at the centre, but also at home. You can do a very simple, even if you have a photo, you can offer a very simple Arti. If you're interested in learning and setting up an altar at home, you can please approach one of the devotees. I'm sure they'll be happy to teach you and help you to worship at home. You can do a very simple way of worshipping your deities or photos. So these are 5 very simple ways that we can really get our spiritual life going. But we should try and tick some of these boxes, if not all of them. And you'll see it has a really powerful effect on how we move forward in our spiritual life. So, that's it. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I think maybe one question, I don't know if we have time. If you have any questions, please. Yeah?
You mentioned towards the end of the 4th verse, where you said, invoking the presence of the Lord within the heart. How do we understand that when we know that the presence of the Lord is already there in the form of the Paramatma? So what does this sort of mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, yeah, ultimately the Lord is always present within the heart. A good way to think of this is, one of my teachers, he used to say that there is philosophical atheism and then there's psychological atheism. So philosophical atheism is when, philosophically, I just don't believe in God. It's very straightforward. Like, that's my philosophical or theological position, that I don't believe in God. I don't believe God exists. I don't believe there's more to life. So that's straightforward. But psychological atheism is what I was speaking about when I referred to Srila Prabhupada, that, Krishna reciprocates accordingly, however we approach him. So I may philosophically believe in God or believe in Krishna, in divinity, but how am I living my life? How am I approaching Krishna? Am I really approaching Krishna in a way that I psychologically believe in God? Not just philosophically. It's easy, philosophically, I say. This is my standpoint, Supreme Personality of Godhead and, all this stuff. Like, we can say that's nice. But every day when I wake up, do I actually live like the super soul is in the heart of every living being? The super soul is in my heart. So the question is that it's a matter of how we approach it. Like I was saying, the example of offering, honoring, cooking the food or the bhoga. It's a matter of consciousness. So the degree that one actually realizes that Krishna is present within the heart is a matter of our philosophical theism, psychological theism. There's a difference between saying you believe in God and acting like you actually believe in God. Does that make sense? So, thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We've run over a little bit. So, just before we end, I'm starting the Bhagavad Gita course. This is the 4th cycle of the course. It starts on the 24th of June. If you or you know anyone that wants to join, you have it until the 23rd. So please spread the word. How many of you have done the course? Put your hand up. Please say something nice about it. So, anyone would like to share anything? Anyone? Just do it, yeah.
I mean, it's super, super easy to understand the acronyms, because what it does is it gives an acronym for every single chapter. And it's not something you would fall asleep in, because Shyam Govinda Prabhu makes it really practical and relevant to the lives that we live in. And he's like, what the Gita teaches us, whereas what the world teaches us, and then you can take something away from it with each session. So I highly recommend.
Just a disclaimer, it's not as intense as this. This was quite intense. It's very simple, very structured, so yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, Christian.
I'm going to not here most of the time, so I'm leaving for you, but the few times that I've come, I think it's very organised in a very good way for the public, because a lot of the time we're kind of faced with a lot of the scripture and philosophical side of it, but it proper breaks it down and it's very practical and there's a lot they can take away from it. So it very much focuses on the meanings and how to apply it to our daily life, which I very much appreciate. So
Thank you. Yeah, please. I mean, the reason why we're trying to publicize it is because we recently went to the Kata, the temple. They asked for some volunteers, so we went to help out. We had a bookstore there. We helped serve the food there. And one thing that really struck me is, wow, a lot of people really don't know. Like, a lot of people don't know. Even, I mean, this is, and it's not criticism, it's just an observation. Even people didn't know the difference between Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam. They thought they were one and the same thing. So whether you're from a Hindu background, non-Hindu background, makes no difference. But spiritual wisdom is lacking in the world. And the Bhagavad Gita is such a great book to really begin with. If someone has just a basic understanding of the Gita, it really propels them. Because it's very hard to then look back and go the other way, because you know too much. So it's a really nicely structured course. So yeah, please, yeah.
Small question.
Yeah.
You just mentioned the temple. Which temple?
The Sanatan temple, the apple tree. Apple tree. Yeah. Yeah, and this isn't a criticism, it's just an observation in the sense that, there are sincere people who want to know more, but in order to know more, there has to be some austerity of time given. A lot of the time it's like, we want to understand things in a 10-minute conversation, but it doesn't work like that. Sages have studied this for many decades and hundreds of years. We have to invest time. Unless you invest time, things don't change. So if you know anyone that could possibly be interested, please send them the flyer, and yeah, you won't regret if you do the course. Yeah.
And also, it's not actually just for Hindus. There's so many faiths that are interested in it because they want to know the comparisons, they want to understand their own faith.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many times we've had book distribution in town, and there was a Muslim who actually said to me he'd actually read the Bhagavad Gita and he lost faith in his own religion, and it made him come back stronger to his faith.
Yeah.
Appreciate it more.
Yeah, that's a really powerful point. It's not about conversion or anything like that. It's providing value to people where we know the Gita is essentially not a religious book. It can help anybody. Anybody could pick the Gita up and get value from it. But I know we're running late, so thank you very much.
It's great.
One more thing. If anybody who's interested in Shyam Govinda that he just read, it's £185, but it's actually worth it because how many books is there? 18 books. 18 books, and it goes through it in real depth, and it's amazing to have. Even just having it, some people have it on their altar because they actually do it every day. So how powerful it is. So if you are interested, then please go and see Ronnie, me, or Winter Krishna. Okay? Thank you.
It's great. Shyam Govinda Prabhu ki.
Jai.
Can we get 3 loud Hari Bols for Shyam Prabhu, please?
Hari Bol!